Hi, I'm Kate Wood from Worth Preserving, and I am delighted to welcome you to beautiful and historic Hudson, New York, where we are working on a project to revitalize the interior of this amazing circa 1875 Italianate house. So come on in. What's really special about this project is how many significant character-defining features are still intact. I mean, these plaster corbels, this arch, just this entrance hall. There's so much to talk about. But before we get really into it, I want to introduce you to my friend, colleague, and partner on this project, Seamus Quigley from Finchfield Fix.
Hi, Kate.
Hi.
Great to see you.
Good to see you. Always a pleasure.
Well, you've tasked me with a really big job here.
Yeah, but I know you can handle it because you love old houses as much as I do.
Yes, actually, my house is 1869, so this is 1875, so round about the same time period.
Yeah, and also an Italianate.
Yes.
So this
exactly.
is familiar turf for you.
Yes, well, with Finchfield Fix, we're going around, we're fixing different things in Finchfield Fix, and today we're going to start fixing things in this Italianate.
Well, we're actually sort of at the moment in the project where you've been doing a lot of kind of exploratory demo and sort of uncovering all the mysteries of this house.
It looks a lot more scary than it actually is,
yeah.
and we can get into those details as we walk around.
Yeah, this is actually the part of the project that I kind of love the most because we've looked in all the nooks and crannies, we know what we're dealing with, and we're going to start putting it back together.
There's a lot of skeletons in this house, but we'll get there.
Yeah, but we're so lucky that, I mean, we were talking about these plaster corbels. So you've gotten really up close and personal with these, I know.
We certainly have. There were so many layers of paint on here, you couldn't
Yeah.
see any of the details really. But when we put out, there's a product called Peel Away, which is incredible for plaster work, and it takes about 30 layers of paint off at a time, so it really, in one instant, revealed everything that was lying behind all that paint. You know, it's amazing after 150 years how many owners there's been here and how many times they've redecorated over the years. And now we're back to square one where it was originally in the 1870s.
Right.
Obviously there's some detail we still have to get back to. We're going to use some dental picks to just clean all this area up a little bit before it's repainted.
I like it just the way it is.
It is pretty spectacular.
Yeah. But we'll come up with something. I mean, it wouldn't have originally been left like this. This is in its raw state.
Yes.
So it would have some sort of decorative finish, whether it's paint or some sort of maybe
Could be a wax or
right, exactly.
whatever.
So we'll figure that out, but this is such a much better place to be in than where we started.
It's a good start.
Yeah. So Seamus, you've been busting up some walls in here.
I have.
I mean,
Guilty as charged.
By necessity, because we did need to poke some holes to figure out, you know, framing stuff and how we were going to route some plumbing.
Yes.
But, I mean, these are plaster walls. The beautiful thing about plaster, I mean, you don't want to just indiscriminately demolish it. You know, it's lasted 150 years. But in places where you did have to open up the wall, you can repair it using plaster.
Absolutely.
So tell us about how you went and made this wall look like it had never been touched.
You know, as you said, we're very judicious in what we're cutting out because we want to preserve as much of the original plaster as possible. But sometimes to bring in modern conveniences, we have to make some holes. And in this case, we are trying to get a bathroom over here, and we have to run the plumbing, the waste lines down into the basement. And we hoped we could get a chase in this wall, but unfortunately we cut out a piece at the top and a piece at the bottom, and we couldn't get away into the basement. So how do you fix that? Well, we went back and we put new pieces of plaster lath in, so that's the wooden lath that holds the plaster on. And then we use a product called Structuralite, which brings it flush to the surface of the old plaster. And then we use this. So it's a fiberglass mesh roll, and it's self-adhesive, and we stick it onto the wall, so we roll it down the wall. And then we use a finishing plaster or a restoration plaster. And this, I've used many plasters in my lifetime, and this is by far the best plaster. It's called Master of Plaster, and out of South Carolina. So they ship it up for me, and it goes on the wall like butter. I mean, it's just like spreading a piece of butter in a jam sandwich. It's amazing. This is a 10th generation plaster maker out of England, and they happen to be in South Carolina. So it's right back to when this plaster was the same plaster that was used back then.
It's the same material.
Same material.
That's great.
Yeah.
Seamus, the plaster work doesn't end here. There's a lot more to talk about. So why don't we go into the living room and you can tell us what you're up to there.
Okay, just don't be afraid of the holes.
Okay, there are more holes. All right.
There are more holes.
But you can fix them.
I can fix them.
We've established
Yes.
that. All right, we're good.
All right, let's do it.
come
All
on.
right.
So I know you've been working with the electrician, but
Yes.
tell me what all these holes are.
Well, let's see. The owners want to put a chandelier back in this room.
Right.
And if you look up, you can see there's a little hole right in the center. And believe it or not, there used to be a gas light coming out of
That
there.
would be so typical. I mean, you see paintings and drawings of parlors like this that would have this big elaborate gasolier in the
Yep.
middle. So yeah, that's great that they want to restore that.
And unfortunately, someone took it out at some point in time.
Yeah.
Or,
Well, when gas stopped being used,
Yeah.
and then they never electrified it.
So unfortunately, the electrician has to get from over here. So we had to cut a hole on the wall, and you can see where there was electric run before. And then the electrician has to be able to get up through that back of that molding and get electricity all the way back into the center here. And the only way to do that is to cut out some holes. So I know it looks terrifying and scary, but obviously you can see before we'll replaster this when the electrician's
And
finished.
fortunately, the joists are going this way, so you can just run it
Yes.
from that. Yeah.
We will have to cut through, that's why we have a hole over here. We have to cut through a couple of the joists to get to the center, but it's relatively simple
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of things.
And this ceiling needs some work anyway. I mean, you can
Yes.
see around the edge, it's got this kind of beautiful, elegant cove molding that we think is original. But then there's this very rough bead that went around that looks like it's had some repairs, not very well done in the past. And you know, something just seems to be missing. It just doesn't have that kind of elaborate detail that you'd expect in a house of this caliber from the 1870s. You could go buy something like fiberglass or wood or something like that, prefab, off the shelf.
At a big box store.
Yeah, exactly. But here, you know, you've got the skills to be able to recreate what might have originally been here.
And of course, it's a historic home and it deserves to be treated properly. So it's a little more time and effort and expense, obviously. So I made a couple of samples for you to look at. They're not intricate in detail, but it'll give you an idea of what would have happened around the 1870s in this area.
Right. Well, let's go take a look.
Okay, great.
So, Seamus, you made this, right?
I did make this. We just made a quick sample for you, just so you could get an idea. So this is a knife. I've kind of deconstructed it because we're not actually putting it on the ceiling, but otherwise it would have a wood structure around it, so we could run the plaster right in the ceiling. But just to make a quick example, so this knife is from 1869, and I took it actually from my own house. So what we do is, on my ceiling, I cut through the plaster that was there, just a saw curve width. I put a piece of steel inside it, and then we just scribe around the plaster molding and cut out this knife.
And then that becomes your template to make as many feet of this as you need.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So then we use fiberglass mesh and we put it down. We use some molding plaster, get it wet, really a good slurry, and then we just multiple times just keep pulling this through, and eventually you come up with this template.
Yeah, and you can make really any design you want.
Any
You just have to
design.
make the knife,
Exactly.
and then you go to town.
Yep, that's all there is to it. Easy.
Easy peasy. Sounds great. So this room is a good place to talk a little bit more about the history of this house.
Yes.
So we're in the library. So originally this house, built around 1875, did not have this part of the house.
This
So this was added in about 1887, which tracks with Samuel Edwards, who was the original owner of this house, was appointed to a judgeship. So he became Justice
And
Samuel
he needed
Edwards.
a library.
He needed a library, and he needed a grand fireplace and a coffered ceiling. So stylistically, this room is very different from the rest of the house.
But shows his personality and what he wanted. out of his home.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, this whole house is aspirational. I mean,
Yes.
it is sort of the cutting edge of what, upwardly mobile professionals wanted. I mean, it was a very modern house when it was built. It had central heating.
Which was unusual for that time frame.
Yeah, so there would have been like a big coal burning furnace in the basement, and it would have been sending hot air up into the rooms. But this room had a wood burning fireplace. This is one of the most beautiful features.
It's a great example,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this tile could be English. It could have been imported
Oh, really? Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I love the motifs here.
Yeah.
These different heads.
You
Beautiful
see
back.
also like the crazing and the glaze.
All the crackling.
Some of that might have been original, but it's so much part of the patina and the character that I definitely want to just keep that the way it is. But we'll stabilize this. One of the key features of this room, which you've also
I'm glad you got to this.
we've all been very excited about this,
Yes.
is the discovery of the ceiling, which we thought in these, kind of coffered areas, we thought it was just plaster.
Yes.
And because we could see it sort of sagging, and it just looked like plaster that was failing. But tell us about what you found when you got up there.
That was one of our most exciting discoveries.
Yeah.
We meticulously took off the molding around what we thought was plaster that was sagging from maybe a leak in the past. And what we actually found were canvas panels, which was pretty spectacular because everything was painted a terrible off-white color. You've taken this to restoration specialists. What did we find?
We found that each one of those panels was an individual painting. I mean, it was all designed so that the ceiling would have this beautiful decorative effect. And so what we started to do is we took each of those panels and we took them to this conservator. And what they're doing is they're selectively stripping the off-white paint. And what we're discovering is this amazing decorative banding, different colors. It was totally unexpected.
So I do have one of those panels here so we can talk about it.
Let's do it.
Great.
So you see, like we thought this was plaster.
Yes.
But then when you took it down, you found that it was actually stretched canvas on these frames with this amazing hardware.
This is my most favorite thing I think in the whole world right now. These are incredible, from 1883 patent.
So that tracks right with when this would have been, this edition was made.
But look at the detail just so they inset this bracket. They just had to chamfer this out completely here.
Yeah, so that it would lie flat to the ceiling. I wonder
Amazing.
what that says.
Let me get my Googles on. Something 12. So maybe this was their number 12.
Right, as part of the original design.
There's another number here. Oh, January. Does it say January?
Neat. So many things to discover. This is what's exciting about finding things like this.
Just to find a carpenter today to make this will cost a fortune.
Yeah, absolutely.
What we found is when we thought it was all just cream colored, but you can just see the outline of some green paint here.
Yeah.
And I handed this off to you, and what did you do with it?
Well, so this green paint gave us a clue that what this was probably some kind of decorative painting that, individual panels that were stuck in this roof and this ceiling, and together created this overall effect. So what we're trying to figure out now with the help of foreground conservation right here in Hudson, is they are very carefully stripping this top layer of paint.
Incredible.
And revealing the design underneath.
So they're forensic.
Yeah, exactly. So we're almost like taking an X-ray of what this would have originally been. And so what we've found so far is not only was it painted green, but it had this amazing banding of different colors, including gold and red
I can't
and
wait
blue.
to see that.
It's going to be incredible.
And I'm sure the judge will be really happy that it's being restored to its original style. It's a shame that someone through their own wisdom, decided to paint this cream.
That's the kind of thing, is like you sort of try to get inside the heads of people who lived here before, and why would you ever paint this over? I think that's going to be very characteristic of the 1880s,
Yes.
which obviously style-wise would have gone very much out of fashion at some point, and somebody was modernizing and thought that this would look better.
Yeah.
I mean, fortunately, it can be restored to at least know what the original design was. Whether we're going to be able to actually conserve the original material, that remains to be seen, but at least we'll know what the original intent
And
was.
we can replicate it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, wonderful. So Kate, there's something I know absolutely nothing about, and I know that's hard to believe.
You shocked me.
Thank you. But I know nothing about stained glass, but I do know that they're spectacular. Can you tell me all about them, please?
Well, so I'm learning about stained glass. I learn from experts all the time. So I visited here with a stained glass conservator, Brenna Chase from Willow Deep Studio, because the biggest concern that the homeowners had is whether this stained glass needs immediate emergency repair, because you'll see that some of the panels are warped and broken, and these ones are in pretty good shape. These are so beautiful. I mean, again, they would have been ordered from a catalog.
Really? Because
These
the
weren't.
detail's
I don't think
spectacular.
that they would have been custom made for here, but still, the pieces are so beautiful, and it would be so difficult to replicate this today. The thing that I understand, so no, they don't need emergency resuscitation. They are pretty stable. It's taken 150 years for them to get into this condition. It will be a priority eventually to restore them. But in the meantime, what we know is that the reason that they have not that they're beginning to fail is, see those vertical elements?
Yep.
Those are called support bars. Depending on the size of the panel, you need a certain number of support bars. So these were not made with the correct number of support bars.
Oh, I see.
So when she does restore them, she will add more support so that they will last
Another 150 years.
another 150 years. All right, so Seamus, in here, what I really want to talk to you about first is this door.
Yes.
So I saw that you had stripped this door, which we knew had kind of a faux finish on it, like
Yes.
this trim. But I was like, oh my God, what have we done? Because it's terrible wood, it's in horrible condition.
So not so fast. Not so fast. This is just the second layer that we've taken off. So there was, as you say, a dirty brown color on there first, but they had an oil-based primer on here. Another way to get that off is to use a product like this. So similar to the plaster remover, this is a strip away. It's from Dumont, the same company. So we put this on, and fear not, the other side was just the same, and voila.
Look how beautiful that is.
Isn't that spectacular?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want to see. I mean, that's gorgeous. So that gives us an indication of what all of this is going to look like once
Exactly.
we strip
So
it.
we're going to strip this next. We have a couple of cracked panels in this entranceway,
Yeah.
which we're going to replace. But this will all be stripped down, and it'll look something like this.
Right. And you've also gone ahead and stripped this wainscoting
Yes.
here.
And then we're trying to replicate what's in the judge's library.
Right,
So-
that kind of rich color. That's a different wood in the library.
So this is oak, and oak is a lot wider grain, so it absorbs stain at a different rate than pine does. In the library, it's a lot darker. You don't see as much grain, and the only way to replicate that is we're going to have to use a solid stain instead of a semi-transparent stain, so we can get back to that same color.
And so this has kind of turned out a little orangey, the way that it's responding to the wood, to the oak.
And that's the
But-
tannins in the oak
Yeah,
as well.
so we'll sort of we'll modify that, and then we'll make it so that it's a nice matte finish. So Seamus, you've made quite a mess here.
I have to admit this was a bit of a challenge.
Because when we first started this, so there was this big wood mantle here,
Yes.
very elaborate, very much not of the 1870s. Probably.
When was it actually made?
I think it was probably early 20th century, maybe 19 teens. It looked very Edwardian to me. So I knew it wasn't original, but I thought, well, maybe it was added, in the early part of the 20th century. But there was something about it, just the way it was installed, that looked rough, like we were talking about with the wainscoting, like just a little rough, like it wasn't intentional. What we figured out is that you could actually take that wood mantle off
Yes.
intact And so we started to excavate. I was hoping that you might find a marble mantle, something that maybe was more original. No, it was a 1970s buff brick mantle that looked like it came from a suburban house in New Jersey.
It took me back to my childhood in Ireland. Some of the little houses in Ireland, the little fireplaces, it was that polished gloss, cream colored brickwork.
Right, and I think that's when that red terracotta hearth came in.
There were some bad decisions made.
Well, I mean, it was an update that, was not in keeping with the character of the house. That wasn't what the goals of the homeowners were at that time. I mean, these homeowners want to take it back to the 1870s. So we knew that 19-teens mantle wasn't original. We definitely knew that the 1970s buff brick was not original or appropriate.
I'm going to have nightmares about that fireplace now.
You had to get your sledgehammer out, and you carved it back, and we got to this. And so what is this? Because this wasn't for wood burning fires.
No.
This was, we thought, well, was it coal burning? But actually what we think it was there was probably a coal burner in the basement, and it was sending hot air up through these rooms. So this is actually modern central heating.
Yes. So this was the original central air, which actually still works to this day. But it's amazing how it was fit into this wall. So it goes down into the basement here. And you can see that we had to remove all of this hearthwork back here.
Back to the original brick.
Back to the original brick.
Yeah. This is the sort of firebox, if you will.
Yeah.
You can see there's a cavity that goes down to the basement. So hot air would have been fed from a coal burning furnace in the basement, and then it would have come to some sort of unit here, and then there's probably some sort of grill over it. And then it would have been fed up to the upstairs.
And then you can see there's a steel beam here, a lintel.
The lintel, yeah.
And that holds everything up structurally.
Right.
Really incredible for its time. But with everything else, we have to bring it into the next century tastefully. So what's the plan?
We have verified that we can adapt this for a gas burning unit.
Wonderful.
So there's plenty of room to have a flue for gas. We'll put back a marble or perhaps wood mantle, but definitely in more of an Italianate style. And then we will have a decorative grate. Like we'll see upstairs actually.
Oh, okay, yes.
We'll
so some
see
examples upstairs.
Of what fireplaces from this era would have looked like, or mantles. And then here we have an opportunity to do some nice decorative tile, kind of maybe like what we saw in the library, that sort of modeled, 19th century tile. Maybe we can find some salvage tile and reuse that. But it's there are lots of options out there. So I think that this will be a great adaptation, not a literal restoration, but definitely a great rehab.
Something in keeping of the era.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
So Seamus, I think here's where we sign off for now.
Okay.
If people have questions or want to know more about particular aspects of the project, please put it in the comments. Please subscribe on YouTube, Kate Wood, Worth Preserving.
And I'm Seamus at Finchfield Fix.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.